I went to visit some real-world Zonai ruins. Let's talk about it. The Mayan city of Chichen Itza is located in the Yucatan jungles of Mexico and is considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's most famous for its pyramid temple, which demonstrates their civilization's mastery of math, science, and their deep understanding of the skies. Being in the presence of such an incredible piece of history was genuinely awe-inspiring. But, of course, after seeing a few familiar-looking ruins, the Zelda theorist part of my brain couldn't help but think about the connections to the Zonai. Many members of the Zelda community have pointed out the real-world influences behind the development of the Zonai aesthetics and culture, identifying clear references to Mesoamerican, East Asian, and European cultures. There are plenty of videos about that, which I can link in the description, but for this video, I just wanted to share my experience seeing one of these clear influences in real life, and some of my ideas and reflections from after the trip. Being in Chichen Itza truly felt like being in the Pharaon jungles of Breath of the Wild. You're in a tropical environment, surrounded by ruins that were excavated from jungle overgrowth. The ruins themselves include columns, carvings, and statues of dragon-like creatures and other deities, which look strikingly similar to the ruins of the Zonai. The centerpiece of the city, the pyramid, was the Mayans' foremost temple to the deity Kukulkan, a feathered serpent and creator god to the Maya people. It's a marvel of engineering that reflects the Mayans' understanding of architecture and astronomy. The temple is designed as a giant calendar. The number of stairs represents the 365 days in a year, and the construction of the temple was aligned so that on each equinox, the shadows appear to be the form of the serpent god slithering down the steps. The outer pyramid tracks the patterns of the sun, but it was also discovered that it was actually built on top of a second, smaller pyramid that was connected to the phases of the moon. Also, just a fun fact, the pyramid demonstrates a knowledge of the properties of sound, because it's built in such a way that clapping in front of it echoes back and mimics the sound of the Quetzal bird, which is another important creature in Mayan mythology. All this is to say, the Mayans utilized their technology when constructing this building in massively impactful ways that shaped their history and culture. Turning back to Hyrule now, we can find quite a few in-game parallels with this temple. There are multiple pyramid-like buildings from the Zonai era, including the Lightning Temple and the ancient Hyrule Castle. However, I think the closest connection in terms of function is the Great Sky Island's Temple of Time, which, if you look at it closely, is sort of an inverted pyramid. As we've learned from Raru's voice memories, the Zonai considered the Temple of Time a bell tower and faithful timekeeper, as well as a spiritual center of this land. And just like the Temple of Time, the Pyramid of Chichen Itza was considered a spiritual center as well as a timekeeper, a calendar of the cosmos. My tour guide referred to the Mayans as the Masters of Time. Perhaps this cultural importance around time bled into the Zonai development. Another important component to Mayan mythos were the cenotes, or sinkholes, that populate the region. For the Mayans, these were considered sacred portals to the Underworld, and were a frequent site of both human and material sacrifice. When I was exploring a cenote, I couldn't help but wonder if the developers had them in mind when they created the chasms. While not filled with water, these massive holes were connected to their own sort of underworld, which was a mirrored version of the surface and was populated by spirits of the dead. The Temple of Kukulkan was built on a cenote, and was at the intersection of 4 others. If we presume that the chasms of the past had the same placement as in the present in Tears of the Kingdom, then the ancient Temple of Time would have had a similar placement, surrounded by 4 chasms, although it wasn't built on top of one. That may not have been intentional, but one other interesting tidbit is that the ancient Hyrule Castle would have been built very close to the River of the Dead. Not sure if that has any connection either, but it did make me wonder. And while human sacrifice was certainly a part of Mayan rituals, we don't have any evidence that that would have been the case for the Zonai. There is, of course, an altar at the Temple of Time that Raru says is considered the most holy place in the temple, and it's where we give offerings as part of our prayers for a bountiful, peaceful world. I have heard through ancient legends that it could interact with a sacred power, allowing travel back and forth through time, though how this was done is a mystery to me. Now, I haven't seen any arguments that those offerings were humans, but if they were, it does seem like the Zonai would have had a couple nearby options where they could have sent them into the Underworld. So, while it's clear that Nintendo didn't directly pull everything about the Zonai from the Mayans, when looking at these ruins and their undeniable resemblance, we can see that it was definitely one of the major influences. Like the Mayans, the Zonai were a civilization with a deep understanding of technology and time, connections to and reference for a dragon-like species, and had ruins of a similar architectural style found in a tropical jungle region. Getting to visit Chichen Itza was absolutely a bucket list item for me. And it was a reminder that while I love to speculate about fictional ancient civilizations, there are so many incredible archaeological wonders in the real world to discover. This video was actually just supposed to be a short, but I got a little carried away. As you can tell, I really like ancient stuff. But I'd love to hear what you think. Are the Mayans truly the closest real-world counterpart to the Zonai, or are there other civilizations that you think were more influential in their creation? Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.